Hello and welcome to Women Filmmakers of the Pacific Northwest. I'm Erica Goss, Director of Girls Voices Matter. Our presentation will introduce you to some amazing artists whose work has received less attention than it should have, for one reason only, because the creators of that art are women. Our presentation will show you just a few of the many excellent films by women. We hope, of course, that you will be inspired to seek out more of their work and the work of other women filmmakers. The Pacific Northwest ranges from the far north of Alaska to Oregon. This is an area that's very special, and a lot of filmmakers have chosen it to make their films. We're running this presentation because we want more people to know about the women who've made movies in this area. Their work has not gotten enough attention, and it's very important work. Thanks to the Oregon Cultural Trust for funding this program. Dr. Claire Grayman researched, developed, and is the narrator for the presentation we're about to show you. So let's get started.
First, let's talk about why women. Despite cultural conversations, especially with the latest Oscars in 2020, there's still a lot of gender inequality in the film industry. For example, only 21% of filmmakers are women, 31% of speaking roles are held by women, and 23% of films feature women protagonists. So it's still an important issue, and it's important to explore and celebrate female filmmakers. It's also important to discuss who is a filmmaker. Often we think of it as the director of a film, but it takes so many people to make a film, and all their contributions are important. Screenwriters, editors, cinematographers, costume designers, composers, even the electricians who work on the lighting. Everything goes into making the movie, and it's important to recognize all those contributions, especially because often lines of race and gender restrict who gets to be the director. And finally, what are we talking about when we say the Pacific Northwest? Though it's a broad region, some people include Alaska and Idaho. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm only focusing on Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia. These three states, or rather 2 states and a province, have a shared history of colonization, industry, environment, climate, etc. It also has a rich history of film. Hollywood films you may know of that were shot in the Pacific Northwest include Twilight, Stand By Me, The Goonies, and Animal House. But there have also been tons of independent or indie films, which is where I'm going to focus more in this presentation. These indie films are more connected to the region, and they have more artistic freedom, since there's less pressure from mainstream studios to appeal to people all over the world. One of the oldest films I could find that was shot in Oregon is called Conflict from 1921, starring Priscilla Dean. Now, this film was in the genre of serial adventure films starring women that were very popular during this time. You may have heard of the most popular serial, The Perils of Pauline, involving a woman who's trying to protect her inheritance from her uncle who's scheming to steal it from her, and goes on various adventures. This film seems to be very much like it. I wasn't able to find it on the internet, but I did find that it was shot on the Rogue and Deschutes rivers, and the scene picture here was the climactic scene where she's riding the rails down from the logs down from the lumber camp to rescue her boyfriend who is unconscious on a raft heading towards a waterfall. Very exciting stuff. So while films had been shot in Oregon for a long time, our first filmmaker in this presentation, Catherine Wilson, was instrumental in bringing Hollywood to Oregon, giving her the nickname the Mother of Oregon Film. Wilson was born in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and went to South Eugene High School in the 1960s. Films she worked on you've probably heard of. They include Stand By Me, Animal House, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. All of these films were shot in Oregon. Wilson's entry into the film industry was her friendship with Ken Kesey, which led her to work with him on the set of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Her jobs on movies over the years included finding financing, working as a stunt woman, location scouting, set design, and casting. She recently made a documentary on the making of Animal House, on which she did location scouting and extra casting. And, as Wilson tells it, filming Animal House is really the key to opening up Oregon to Hollywood. She says in a quote in her memoir, During the filming of Animal House, the director and producers couldn't believe how easygoing and nice we were, or how good we were at our jobs, which was mostly creative problem solving, or how sophisticated we were about things like music and literature, she says. After that, Oregon had a reputation of helping a great deal and making a blockbuster out of a B-movie budget. If you are interested in learning more about Catherine Wilson, you can read her recently published memoir, Echoes from the Set. Today, filmmakers continue to work in Oregon for various reasons. Besides our beautiful landscape, Oregon State offers tax incentives that keep filmmaking costs down and bring industry to the Pacific Northwest. Our next filmmaker was drawn here for just that reason. Though from Florida originally, director-writer Kelly Reichardt makes most of her films in the Pacific Northwest. She is known for her critically acclaimed indie films, which include feminist themes and minimalist style. Her films include Old Joy, Wendy and Lucy, Meek's Cutoff, Night Moves, and Certain Women. But the film I want to focus on for this presentation is Meek's Cutoff. Based on a true story, Meek's Cutoff follows a group of lost pioneers in eastern Oregon in the 1840s. And you'll see in this trailer what a unique and special film this is.
In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever.
Well, if it's riches you're after, there's riches aplenty. That's the truth. You mark my words. We follow land downhill.
We need water. That much I know.
That's what you think, that we're lost?
I'd say that seems about the right word for it.
We're not lost, we're just finding our way.
I don't blame him for not knowing. I blame him for saying he did.
We made our decision. This is gonna be a bad dream soon. It's gonna be a story to tell.
It's a quick one.
He knows where the water is.
I've seen him strip the flesh clean off a man while he's still breathing. You people got no idea what you are dealing with here.
We caught him signaling to someone. It means something. Open your eyes. God knows where he's taking us.
Is he ignorant or is he just plain evil?
Who knows what's over that hill? Could be water. Could be an army of heathens.
What do you see out there?
Meek's Cutoff presents a unique take on the classic Western genre, as Reichardt explains in this quote. I wanted to give a different view of the West from the usual series of masculine encounters and battles of strength, and to present this idea of going west as just a trance of walking. The film's heroine, Mrs. Tetherow, played by Michelle Williams, struggles to survive not only the harsh Oregon desert, but also a sexist culture that forces her to follow an inept man as he gets them more and more lost. The film's aesthetics echo these feminist themes. For example, the square aspect ratio, increasingly rare in modern films, puts viewers in the point of view of the female characters, whose worlds are enclosed by a tight bonnet. In the scene pictured here, the women wait while the men decide what their next move is. The camera cuts back and forth, close to the women but far from the men, again showing the perspective of the women as they wait for the men to decide their fate. The film also shows a part of the world you don't see very often, eastern Oregon and its high deserts. Meek's Cutoff was shot near the town of Burns. Reichardt tried very hard for realism. She even told the actors not to wash their clothes so they looked and felt more authentic. Reichardt's latest film, First Cow, also showcases Pacific Northwest history. Set in Oregon in the 1820s, the film follows two friends who steal milk from the first cow in the territory in order to make and sell biscuits. The reviews say it's a really wonderful story about friendship and history. The next filmmaker I want to talk about is Bobby Jo Hart. Hart was born in Ashland, Oregon, and studied at Southern Oregon State University. She travels all over the world making documentaries with themes of gender, family, fame, and performance. Her films include Rebels on Point, She Got Game, and I'm Not a Rock Star. But today I want to focus on her latest film, Rebels on Point.
I have 10 minutes. And I have to put my shoes on.
It's taking something that is widely known and just like totally going like this.
In the early years, the company was blackballed because of the gay element.
I begged off my first pair of pointe shoes and only whipped out in secrecy in the empty studio for fear of being caught.
I kind of wanted a little girl, but then I guess by default I got a lot of the feminine qualities.
I can be myself. I can wear tutus, why not? Those little things change the world.
We're all so different, we're so international, we're all from different backgrounds, but the audience senses it. We are a family. So when that curtain goes up, it's just electric.
I love the sound of applause. I live for the applause, applause, applause.
Though centered on a ballet troupe based in New York City, Hart brings in more rural connections when she follows individual dancers to their homes and families from Mississippi to Italy. Just like the Trocaderos, the film plays with lines of gender, showcasing the dancers' combination of camp aesthetic and high art. For example, in the scene pictured here, the dancers perform Swan Lake. Normally in that ballet, a hunter pursues swans who fly away beautifully, but in this performance, the swans fight back, having a little fun with the source material. Hart's cinematography does an excellent job emphasizing the beauty of the dance and the individuality of the dancer. For example, in a long shot, we see a dancer lit up on stage, showing us the beauty of form, but not the gender of the dancer. Meanwhile, in interviews, Hart uses tight close-ups to really capture the emotion of her subjects. Hart also does well balancing between humor and pathos. In this first shot, we can see the stage names of the dancers, which are silly versions of regal Russian names, evoking classic Russian ballet troupes. The names are like Tatiana Yubetcherbutskaya or Doris Vidania. Yet Hart also doesn't shy away from the lasting impact of AIDS crisis on the LGBT community and the Trocaderos, showing really how important these serious issues can be.
But Hart was not the only amazing female filmmaker who worked on Rebels on Point. It's important to recognize other filmmakers besides the director and their contributions. Indie films in particular can allow for more collaboration and diversity behind the camera. I'd like to end this section with a screenshot from my favorite scene in the film and a great quote from Hart. The scene happens towards the end of the film, when the mothers of 3 of the dancers all come to watch a performance. Earlier in the movie, you met each of these mothers, and it's wonderful to see them all together supporting their sons. Hart's quote speaks to this human quality that is so important in her work. Quote, "I am a proud feminist and humanist, and documentary filmmaking is my canvas to bring about positive social, cultural, and political change through intimate human stories that help us care about each other through elements we all share, be it dreams, family, love, loss, determination, resilience, or the elusive alchemy of finding and pursuing our purpose in this life." End quote. The next filmmaker I want to discuss is director Helen Haig Brown. A First Nation woman from Vancouver, BC, she began her filmmaking career making art films like The Cave, which can be found on YouTube, and a memoir documentary she made about her heritage and her relationship with her mother called My Legacy. But her latest film, The Edge of the Knife, was especially unique in that it is the only movie completely filmed in the endangered language of Haida. Haig Brown had to overcome internalized beliefs that her art wasn't worthwhile. This is another obstacle women filmmakers, especially those of colors, come up against in their career.
The film is set on the coast of British Columbia in the 19th century. It is about a man who falls under a curse after a tragedy befalls him, and his family and friends attempts to save him. As you can see from the screenshot, the filmmakers took great care with historical and cultural accuracy in the sets and costuming. The cinematography is also very beautiful, showcasing the lifestyle and the emotions of its characters, as well as the beauty of the Pacific Northwest landscape. The Edge of the Knife adapts folklore for cinema in a beautifully compelling way. Though Haig Brown points to the collaboration behind the filming of The Edge of the Knife, there are clear themes in her films that she attributes to her background and childhood. Quote, "In her childhood there was very much a strong raising around being critical, challenging the norm, looking at power imbalances, and looking at patriarchy and oppression in its multiple forms." The last filmmaker I want to talk about is not a director at all, but her artistry has had an undeniable impact on Pacific Northwest filmmaking. Deborah Cook is a costume designer and puppet modeler for Leica Studios, the Portland-based team behind the renaissance in stop-motion animation, as seen in films like Coraline, Kubo and the Two Strings, and most recently, The Missing Link. Though originally from England, Cook has been working in Oregon for the last decade. Cook was trained as an artist, studying textiles and sculpture. She explains her path to filmmaking in the following quotes. "I didn't really know at the time that stop-motion animation was even a medium I could work in. It was a very happy accident. I really enjoy the scale, I enjoy that level of detail and being able to invest my time and space, and then seeing it very big blown up on the theater screen. It gave me a forum to utilize all my tools." Just like with actors, costume designing for puppets is integral to creating character. In this case, costuming brings these models to life. Here you can see the details that create Coraline, from her distinctive yellow raincoat to the tiny clip in her hair. Even background characters like this villager from Kubo in the Two Strings show important detail, like the historical and culturally accurate costume, to the patches which show her class and status. Stop motion is an incredible art form that has been curtailed by the popularity of CGI. The scene pictured here is a bar fight from the movie The Missing Link, which won the Golden Globe for Best Animated Picture. This scene took 100 weeks to animate. There are many other amazing female filmmakers from the Pacific Northwest, and I encourage you to check out their films. If you are interested in learning more about filmmaking in Oregon, by all genders, TravelOregon.com has plenty of great articles and resources. Finally, I encourage you to check out local film festivals in order to see movies you might otherwise miss. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation of female filmmakers of the Pacific Northwest. Thank you for your time.